My own brain is to me the most unaccountable of machinery, always buzzing, humming, soaring, roaring, diving, and then buried in mud. And why? What is this passion for? These lines were said by the famous English author Virginia Woolf, and as we know that Woolf constantly dabbled and skillfully experimented with the literary technique of stream of consciousness, we got to listen to her, especially when she talks about language, expression, or the voyages of the brain. Now, if you want to understand stream of consciousness, you'll have to refer to my literature lessons. So, hi everyone, this is Ishi, and I welcome you to my today's session on language and the language skills. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to language and the various skills associated with it. So, going back to understanding language, as you know that language is primarily seen as a means of communication, which it sure is, but language is far more complex in its nature, structure, social role, and responsibilities. So let's see in how many ways can you use language to communicate with others. You have 10 seconds to answer this. What are the three most commonly used means of communication? The time starts now. Time up. So, if you said written, oral, and gestural, you got it absolutely right. Pat on your shoulders from my side. Have you ever thought how would life be if we did not possess the power of language and communication? If not, think now. I'll give you 20 seconds to imagine yourself operating in day to day life without any type of communication or any use of either of these three means of language, which are oral, written, or even gestural. Think, come on, each day of your life without language. Your time starts now. Time up. Alright, so did you imagine? What do you think? Extremely difficult, if not impossible, right? Therefore, Hawkins said, language is the most valuable single possession of the human race. Therefore, stop taking language for granted. Let's be thankful that we have the power of language. And while we talk about the power of language, let's also give it a thought as to how power affects language. Do you see the difference? On one hand, we are talking about the power or abilities that language bestows upon us. And on the other hand, we are talking about a completely different thing, which is exploring the mutual relationship between language and power. Usually, people tend to associate power with money, property, status, etc., while language is seen to be democratically available to all. Unfortunately, that's not entirely true. That's not entirely true. Just like money, land, property, and status, language is also used to acquire, exercise, consolidate, and maintain power. How? Think of the process of standardization of language. This is a topic which I'll look at another time in my language lesson on the process of standardization of language. However, for now, you can think of various examples from your daily life where you can observe how language becomes a tool of power dynamics. I hope that by now your way of looking at language has undergone a paradigm shift. Now that target 1 is achieved, let's move to target 2, which is understanding language skills. While teaching and learning languages, there are 4 kinds of language skills that we focus on: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. We are going to look at each of these skills one by one in our next segment. So stay tuned. Hi! Now, we are going to look at reading as one of the main skills of language and also at the sub-skills of reading. To understand this better, let's first understand the science of reading. How does our reading brain work? Reading isn't a simple process, and various areas of our brain function together with mutual coordination and synchronization to enable the reading process. It helps us to decode the text. For example, look at machine languages. It can only be decoded by your computer. In computer programming, machine code consists of machine language instructions, and the programming languages are used to directly control a computer's central processing unit or CPU. Now, a human brain can't possibly understand all the instructions in the programming language unless you're specifically trained in it. However, the computer can very well decode it and also convert it into human languages, which we are able to understand easily. Therefore, it is very important to understand how our brain decodes the texts which are presented to us and how it interprets it. Let us look at the more important parts of the brain involved in reading. First is the temporal lobe, which is located towards the lower back of the brain and is responsible for speech sounds. Second is frontal lobe, which is located at the front of the brain with a left and a right half. These are involved in multiple functions like problem solving, decision making, movement, planning, and memory. Left half of the frontal lobe is primarily language related and responsible for speech production, reading fluency, grammatical usage, as well as comprehension. Hence, it contributes in all the four language skills, that is speaking, reading, writing, and listening. Third is angular gyrus, which is situated at the core of the brain, near the back and top side of the temporal lobe, and this functions as the reading integrator. It helps us convert visual input into audio output. Please see that these brain areas do not work in isolation and they coordinate together as parts of the brain network. Now, why is reading important? Take 10 seconds to think about this, and your time starts now. Time up! We often read a text to decide if it is interesting, relevant, or important for us. That is one use. Second, we read to understand a text in detail so that we can learn more about a topic. 2. To find information to support any research that you might be conducting. 3. To help one do their work. Next, we often read to locate a certain information in a longer text. Think pamphlets, advertisements, brochures, notices, newspapers, etc. Fourth, we read to follow instructions. Think of your device operation manuals, meeting attendance, guidelines, exam question paper instructions, etc. Fifth, we read for pleasure, whether it is a novel, self-help, or motivation books, biographies, or history books. When you read out of interest in any particular topic and not out of need, you are reading for pleasure. So why do you need to improve your reading skills? The big question. Because if you read well, you read more. Reading helps you acquire more knowledge as it is a gateway to learning. Reading gives you access to all areas of knowledge through print. Language has been around for thousands of years, but reading and writing as cultural inventions are relatively recent phenomena, just around about 4,000 to 6,000 years. Can you believe that? Alright, so I'll leave you with the thought and I'll see you in the next segment. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.